For years, commuters passed beneath a busy bridge in Lagos without giving much thought to the man who lived there. He appeared to be another homeless figure surviving on the margins of one of Africa's largest cities. People saw him. People walked past him. Few imagined that beneath the constant noise of traffic and daily life, police would eventually uncover one of the most disturbing crime scenes in Nigerian history. The discovery would shock the country: human remains, skulls, body parts, a woman found barely alive. And at the center of it all was a man named Clifford Orji. More than 2 decades later, his case remains one of the most controversial and unsettling criminal investigations ever recorded in Nigeria. It is a story involving allegations of murder, cannibalism, ritual practices, mental illness, and a justice system that never delivered a final verdict. Because despite the horrifying accusations, Clifford Orji was never convicted. He spent 13 years behind bars awaiting trial. Then he died, leaving behind a case filled with unanswered questions. This is the story of Clifford Orji. To understand why the case became so infamous, it is important to understand the setting. In the late 1990s, Lagos was already one of the fastest-growing cities in the world. Millions of people moved through its crowded roads, markets, and transport hubs every day. The city was a place of opportunity, but also a place where poverty, crime, and social inequality existed side by side. One of the busiest transportation corridors was the Oshodi area. Known for its constant activity, Oshodi connected different parts of the city and served as a major transit point for commuters. Under bridges and flyovers throughout the area, informal settlements emerged. Some people operated small businesses, others sought shelter wherever they could find it. Among those living beneath one of the bridges near Toyota bus stop was a man named Clifford Orji. Much about his early life remains unclear. Reports suggest he was born in the mid-1960s and was originally from southeastern Nigeria. According to accounts that later emerged, he had once sold razor blades and other small items before eventually becoming a familiar figure around Oshodi. At various times, he reportedly presented himself as a spiritual healer or traditional practitioner. People who encountered him described a man who often appeared mentally unstable. Some believed he was harmless, others avoided him. Most simply paid little attention. For years, he lived beneath the bridge. Then, in February 1999, everything changed. The events that led to his arrest began with the discovery of a woman. According to reports, local residents found a woman in critical condition near Orji's makeshift shelter beneath the bridge. What happened next quickly attracted police attention. As authorities examined the area, they reportedly uncovered something far more disturbing than anyone expected. Human remains were found at the location. Investigators also recovered human skulls and body parts. Some reports claim both fresh and cooked remains were discovered. The scene immediately became front-page news. Rumors spread rapidly across Lagos. The discovery appeared so shocking that many people initially struggled to believe it. But police investigations continued. The more authorities searched, the more evidence they reportedly collected. According to accounts from the time, investigators found personal belongings believed to have belonged to victims. Items reportedly included women's clothing and other possessions. Police also recovered a mobile phone and a check worth 80,000 naira. At the time, mobile phones were still relatively uncommon and expensive in Nigeria. The discovery raised additional questions. How had a man living beneath a bridge obtained such items? Where had the money come from? Who had owned the recovered property? Investigators suspected the belongings might be connected to victims, but many details remained unclear. As news of the case spread, public reaction was immediate. Fear swept through parts of Lagos. Stories circulated about missing people. Rumors expanded far beyond what investigators could confirm. The possibility that a serial killer might have been operating beneath one of the city's busiest bridges was deeply unsettling. Then came the allegations that would make the case internationally infamous: cannibalism. According to police reports and later media coverage, Clifford Orji confessed to eating human flesh. During a police briefing, he reportedly admitted involvement in kidnappings, murders, and cannibalism. One reported statement attributed to him claimed that eating human flesh had been part of his culture for years. The confession shocked the public. Cannibalism is among the most emotionally disturbing crimes imaginable. The allegations transformed the case from a local murder investigation into a national sensation. Newspapers across Nigeria carried the story. International media also took notice. Soon, Clifford Orji became known by a nickname that would follow him for the rest of his life, the Cannibal of Lagos. But even as public outrage intensified, important questions remained unanswered. How many victims were there? Who were they? And how much of the story could actually be proven? The investigation faced significant challenges from the beginning. While authorities recovered human remains, identifying victims proved difficult. Nigeria's forensic capabilities in the late 1990s were far more limited than they are today. DNA testing was not routinely available. Missing persons databases were incomplete. Record-keeping was often inconsistent. As a result, establishing the identities of victims became a major obstacle. Some reports identified a woman named Awawu Lawal as one of the victims connected to the case. Beyond that, many details remain uncertain. The exact number of people allegedly killed by Orji has never been definitively established. Different reports over the years have provided varying figures. Some media accounts suggested multiple murders. Others focused primarily on the remains discovered at the scene. What is clear is that investigators believed they had uncovered evidence of serious violent crimes. Police also arrested another man who was allegedly connected to the trafficking of human body parts. Authorities explored the possibility that body parts had been sold for ritual purposes. Such allegations generated enormous public attention because stories involving ritual killings have long occupied a troubling place in Nigerian criminal folklore. Yet proving those claims in court would require evidence, and that process was only beginning. Following his arrest, Clifford Orji entered the Nigerian justice system. What happened afterward would become one of the most controversial aspects of the entire case. He was charged and remanded in custody. Many people expected a major trial. The evidence appeared dramatic. The accusations were severe. The public wanted answers. But the trial never truly happened. Instead, years passed, then more years, and still no conclusion emerged. A central issue involved questions surrounding Orji's mental condition. From early in the proceedings, concerns existed regarding his psychological state. Psychiatric evaluations reportedly suggested he suffered from serious mental health problems. In criminal law, mental competence is critical. A defendant generally must be capable of understanding legal proceedings and participating in a defense. If someone is deemed mentally unfit, prosecution becomes complicated. In Orji's case, disputes arose regarding psychiatric assessments and his ability to stand trial. As legal complications mounted, the case stalled. Months became years. Years became more than a decade. Throughout that period, Clifford Orji remained in prison. The situation attracted criticism from legal observers and human rights advocates. Regardless of the accusations against him, many argued that holding a suspect for years without completing a trial represented a serious failure of the justice system. By 2012, reports indicated that Orji had spent approximately 13 years in custody without a final verdict. His physical and mental health reportedly deteriorated significantly during that time. Prison officials described a man whose condition had become increasingly severe. Efforts were reportedly made to obtain psychiatric treatment. According to officials, some psychiatric facilities were unable to accommodate him because of limitations related to long-term care. The result was a legal limbo. Authorities argued he could not be tried while mentally unstable, yet treatment options appeared limited. The case remained frozen. For many Nigerians, the situation became symbolic of broader problems affecting the criminal justice system. A suspect accused of horrific crimes, a prosecution that never reached resolution, victims who never received complete answers, and a defendant whose mental health continued to decline. In April 2012, reports emerged describing his condition as extremely poor. Just a few months later, the story took its final turn. On August 17, 2012, Clifford Orji died in prison. He was approximately 46 years old. Initial reports indicated he died while still awaiting trial. An autopsy was later conducted. Authorities ultimately reported that his death resulted from natural causes. With his death, any possibility of a criminal trial ended permanently. The evidence would never be fully tested in court. Witnesses would never testify before a jury or judge regarding the complete allegations. Questions surrounding the extent of his crimes would remain unresolved. The death also reignited debate about the case itself. Some people accepted the police findings and confessions as evidence that Orji had indeed been a serial killer and cannibal. Others pointed to the absence of a completed trial and the lack of judicial findings. Without a conviction, certain aspects of the case would always remain disputed. The distinction matters. In criminal justice, accusations and convictions are not the same thing. Police may believe a suspect committed crimes. The public may believe it as well. But courts exist to determine guilt through legal proceedings. Because Clifford Orji died before that process concluded, some legal questions remain unanswered. What cannot be disputed is the impact the case had on Nigerian society. For many people who lived through that period, the story became unforgettable. The image of a man living beneath a crowded bridge while allegedly hiding human remains nearby captured public imagination in a way few criminal cases ever have. It touched multiple fears at once: fear of violent crime, fear of ritual killings, fear of people disappearing without explanation, fear of dangers hidden in plain sight. The case also highlighted the challenges faced by investigators working with limited forensic resources. Modern DNA analysis, advanced databases, and improved investigative technology might have provided additional answers. In 1999, many of those tools were unavailable or inaccessible. As a result, some mysteries surrounding the case remain unsolved. The identities of all alleged victims were never fully established. The exact number of victims remains uncertain. The extent of any accomplice's involvement remains unclear. And because the trial never occurred, the complete evidence was never publicly examined through the normal judicial process. Today, Clifford Orji occupies a strange place in Nigerian criminal history. His name is often mentioned alongside the country's most notorious crime stories. Books, documentaries, newspaper retrospectives, and online discussions continue to revisit the case years after his death. Part of that enduring fascination comes from the shocking nature of the allegations, but another part comes from the unanswered questions. Cases are often easier to understand when they end with a verdict. A conviction provides one form of closure, an acquittal provides another. The Clifford Orji case produced neither. Instead, it ended with a death inside a prison cell. No final judgment, no complete legal resolution, only fragments of evidence, disturbing discoveries, disputed confessions, and years of speculation. More than 25 years after his arrest, the case remains one of the darkest chapters in Nigerian criminal history. A man living beneath a bridge, a woman found fighting for her life, human remains discovered in the shadows of a city flyover, an investigation that shocked a nation, and a suspect who spent 13 years awaiting a trial that never came. For investigators, journalists, and true crime researchers, Clifford Orji remains both a criminal case and a cautionary tale. A reminder of how important forensic evidence can be, a reminder of the consequences of delayed justice, and a reminder that some of the most disturbing mysteries are not the ones that remain completely unsolved. They are the ones that seem close to resolution, only to leave crucial questions unanswered forever.